So you're thinking about starting your own business, or maybe you already have started your own business. Congratulations. That is a big achievement. It's a big life-changing moment to decide that you're going to venture out on your own and start your own business. At Retail Level Up, we have worked with tons of people who have gone from the idea concept stage through the startup stage all the way through owning and operating their business for months or even decades. All types of business owners have gone through a very similar kind of emotional roller coaster, and they all experience some of these same things. And that's the purpose of this 3-part series on starting your own business. In part number 1, we're going to talk about the beginning and the most necessary components to be successful. And then in part 2, we're going to talk about the key structure that every business needs. And in part 3, we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the details of those different structures that a successful business needs to sustain themselves and to grow. So hopefully in this 3-part series, you're going to get some insight information on how to avoid some of those pitfalls, hiccups you didn't even could imagine would happen. And hopefully you'll pick up some important tips to help you avoid those in the future. So let's start out with the idea, the why. Why is it that someone who is an employee working for someone else doing an exceptional job, why is it that they get this idea that they want to start their own business? Well, there are as many ideas and many reasons out there as there are individuals. Hundreds of thousands of reasons why. But it kind of boils down to one key point. At some point, the employee looks around and thinks, I know how this business operates as well as, or possibly even better than, my boss. Why am I putting all my time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into helping my boss build their empire when I could be doing this myself? That's often something similar to that is the idea of why someone decides to move from being an employee to being a boss of themselves. So there's one critical mistake that quite often there's one critical assumption mistake that happens at this point. And the assumption is that because the employee knows how to do the job so well and they do it so well, they assume that they can also run the business and do it just as well. There's a big difference between being the technician and the doer of the work and understanding all the complexities of running an actual business. As a small business owner, there are 3 key roles that you have to play, and you have to balance these 3 key roles equally. It's important that there's a balance amongst these 3 key roles that you as the business owner has to play, because that balance is what's going to contribute to the success of your business. So first and foremost, the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur lives in their mind in the future. They're the visionary. That's the part of you that is the creative one, that came up with the idea of this business to begin with. It's quite often a big part of the personality. And I think you probably have seen a few business owners that come across as they pretty much know everything and they know how it's to be done. That's the entrepreneur. Always something shiny. What's the squirrel? What's the next great idea? The second key role that a small business owner must play, and that's the one of the manager. The manager lives in the past. They're the ones that are analyzing. They're looking at how things happened and then taking all the chaos and ideas that the entrepreneur comes up with and puts them into nice, neat little rows. They bring order to the chaos. They like to have things done a certain way. And then there's the technician. The technician lives in the present. The technician is the doer. And this often is, and this is often where the new small business owner spends so much of their time in the doing. Because, well, that's what they did when they were an employee. They did it really well. And now that they own their own business, well, if it's going to get done right, they need to do it. All three of these key characteristics live within us when we're a small business owner: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. But unfortunately, quite often, the balance isn't there. And most small business owners are about 10% of the time entrepreneurs. About 20% of the time, they're a manager, and they spend 70% of their time as a doer, as the technician. So when a small business is just starting out, it all is excitement, and the entrepreneurial idea that you have is great. And that's what feeds the excitement and gets you started and off the ground. And then the manager puts some order in place, and then the small business owner tends to kind of fall back into that role that they're familiar with, which is doing, which is being the technician. And that's working in the business and not spending enough time on the business. Until the small business owner comes to the realization that they can only be the technician for so long, there's only so many hours in the day, they have to get some help. They're not going to be able to grow the business or to really succeed until they can round out their team. And that's often the turning point for a small business owner. And there's two ways they can go, because they've suddenly come to the realization that they own a job. They don't own a business. So what's the key takeaway here? Well, first and foremost, that just because you're really good at doing something, you're really good at being the technician, that does not guarantee success as a business owner. In order for a small business to truly achieve success, you have to balance those three roles, those key characteristics that are within you already, but you have to balance them and spend enough time being the entrepreneur, being the manager, and also being the technician. Now in part 2, we're going to dive into more details on how you can structure the business so that you aren't going to be pulling your hair out and trying to do it all yourself. For more tips like this, please make sure you don't miss part 2 and part 3 that are coming out in the following weeks. So be sure to like us and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts, just search for Retail Level Up. Visit our website at retaillevelup.com and sign up for our email newsletter. We send Monday Motivation and Top Tip Tuesday because we can all use a little extra motivation right now, and we can certainly use some top tips because now, even more than ever, it's time to level up.